We were together for 2 years, engaged, planning our future, with everything falling into place. I had booked vendors, paid deposits, and my family was fully involved. Everything felt real and solid. Then one day, while I was at work, he texted me. Just a simple message. I don't want to get married. That was it. No warning, no conversation, just a text that blew everything apart. When I got home, we talked. He told me his parents were getting divorced, and it made him question everything. He said I wouldn't be a good wife, that he didn't feel like we were a team anymore. He wasn't angry, just distant, cold. Normally, when he started acting like this, it was a temporary thing. He'd get upset, talk about breaking up, and then things would settle. But this time, I felt something shift. I didn't fight back. I was too hurt. We agreed to keep living together until the lease ended. He worked days, I worked nights, so we barely crossed paths. It felt like a safe, neutral arrangement. Mutually quiet. A month passed. Now he suddenly wants to talk. Joke. Invite me out like nothing happened. I keep it distant. I don't entertain it. I've already canceled the wedding and told my family. I even managed to get most of my deposits back. Then his mom calls me out of the blue. She says she just paid the caterer $3,000. I told her we broke up a month ago. She was shocked. Said he never mentioned anything. Apparently just 2 weeks ago, they both signed the contract with the caterer. Now she can't get the money back. I felt awful. It wasn't her fault. So I offered to pay her back, told her I'd just need some time. But she stopped me, said I didn't have to. Instead, she asked what had happened. So I told her. Everything. She apologized and asked if I was okay. You could tell she genuinely felt bad. Like maybe sharing news of her divorce with him somehow triggered all of this. But I made it clear. This wasn't on her. Not even close. Later, she and his sisters called him out. They were furious. Furious that he'd let his mom spend thousands of dollars on a wedding he had no intention of going through with. Furious that he was still trying to take me out and act like nothing happened. He came home pissed. Said I had no right to involve his mom. That I crossed a line. That what I told her wasn't her business. But I stood my ground. Told him he had no right to sign a contract with her, pretending like we were still together. Letting her spend money on a fantasy wedding while we were broken up? That's on him. He didn't care. Called me an idiot. Said I ruined everything. Said he wanted to get back together. Like that erases all of it. He wanted to pretend like none of it ever happened. Like we could just rewind to the part where he was still the good guy and I was still the one planning our future. But I couldn't unhear the things he'd said. I couldn't forget that when things got hard, he bailed. Blamed me. Disappeared into his own chaos. And the worst part? He was more upset that I told his mom the truth than the fact that she'd lost $3,000. That told me everything I needed to know. She had every right to know. She was paying for this wedding, literally signing contracts. Keeping her in the dark just to save face? That was selfish, dishonest, and offering to pay her back? That was just me being decent. But it wasn't my mess. He let her spend that money, knowing full well he was already out the door. This whole situation made me see him clearly for the first time. A guy who loves control, loves the drama, and loves playing the victim. But only when it suits him. So, no, I don't regret telling her. I regret trusting someone who didn't even have the guts to be honest with his own mother. Looking back, I realize how many times I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Every little breakup, every moody silence, every time he needed space, I let it slide. I told myself it was just stress, or that he needed time. But the truth is, I was making excuses for someone who never really showed up for me in the first place. He wasn't interested in being a partner. He wanted someone to orbit around him, to adjust and absorb and sacrifice. But never question. The moment I broke that pattern by setting a boundary, by simply being honest with his mom, he flipped. And let's talk about that honesty. It wasn't gossip. It wasn't some revenge move. It was damage control. She deserved to know why her money was gone, why the wedding she was still planning wasn't happening, why her son was walking around like he hadn't just detonated everything. The fact that he hid it all and then blamed me, that was the final confirmation. He was never going to take responsibility. Not for me, not for the wedding, not even for the lie he told by omission. So no, I don't feel bad. I feel free. And now, with some distance from it all, the weight I used to carry for that relationship feels unreal. For 2 years, I kept convincing myself that love meant patience, that staying quiet meant being supportive, that going along with his moods was just part of how relationships worked. But what I was really doing was shrinking myself to make space for his chaos, dimming my needs to protect his comfort. That wasn't love. That was survival. What's wild is how calm he was about the destruction. Like he could just say, "I changed my mind," and the world would adjust itself around that. Like calling off a wedding in a text, letting his mom sign contracts, then pretending none of it matters was a normal, everyday thing. It's not just careless. It's calculated. It's the kind of behavior you don't see clearly until you step outside of it. And now that I have, I can't unsee it. The deeper I reflect, the more I understand just how many red flags I ignored. The subtle emotional manipulation, the way every conflict ended with him distancing himself and waiting for me to fix it. The way he'd play hot and cold until I started questioning myself instead of him. And I kept thinking, maybe he's just scared. Maybe he needs time. Maybe this will pass. But it didn't pass. It got worse. And I think what finally broke me wasn't even the breakup. It was the way he acted after, like I was the one who broke his trust. Like being honest with his mom, the one still financing his delusion, was the betrayal. Not the lie he built to protect his image. The audacity, the lack of empathy, the refusal to see anyone's pain but his own. I'm not just walking away from a failed engagement. I'm walking away from the idea that I owe someone loyalty when they've shown me nothing but disrespect. And honestly, I think that's the real freedom here. I used to think that love meant holding on, pushing through, waiting things out. But now I see that real love, the kind that actually builds something, doesn't make you feel small. It doesn't make you question your worth. It doesn't ask you to keep quiet when things are clearly broken. He showed me who he was, not once, but over and over. And for a while, I refused to believe it. I kept hoping for the version of him that existed only in my imagination, the one who'd grow up, show up, and do better. But that version never came. And maybe he never will. What I do know is this: I deserve honesty. I deserve respect. I deserve a partner who doesn't need to be begged to care. Someone who doesn't confuse silence with strength or loyalty with obedience. So no, I don't regret speaking the truth. I don't regret ending the fantasy. And I don't regret walking away. Because in the end, the only thing worse than losing him would have been keeping him.